Hi, Andy Fionn here. Those of you who follow me on social media know that I'm interested in the influence of geology and vegetation and people. This is not a typical travel video. In this video, I provide a little insight into the influence of geology on the growth of vegetation by looking at an example from Gros Morne National Park in Newfoundland and Labrador and an example from Yukon, Canada. I hope to pique your interest sufficiently that you might consider looking differently at the land beneath your feet the next time you're hiking and looking at wildflowers. Enjoy! In this episode of Rambles with Robin and Ruby, we take another run along the top of the World Highway from Dawson City to the old Clinton Creek Asbestos Mine to the northwest. An asbestos mine, you're thinking? Why visit a former asbestos mine? Well, in many areas, the geology has a dramatic influence on the type of vegetation that grows on the rock. I wanted to see if this was the case for the special rock that contains the asbestos at the Clinton Creek Mine. Join us as we look for special rock that came from deep within the earth to see if that rock affects the local vegetation. Because we are driving along the top of the World Highway, and because we stayed in the campground in Dawson City, we had to take the free ferry across the Yukon River to reach the start of the top of the World Highway. In the previous video, episode 19, episode 34, I included some details about the top of the World Highway. I won't repeat those details here, so check out that video if you're interested in the top of the World Highway. It looks like the ferry is busy this morning. Lots of people driving to Alaska. About an hour and a half along the top of the World Highway, we turn off onto an old gravel road that takes you to the historic 40-mile town site and the Clinton Creek Mine. In the previous video, 19 episode 34, I highlighted the historic 40-mile town site, so check out that video if you're interested in Yukon's first town and first gold rush. About an hour along the road to 40 Mile in Clinton Creek, we pass the turnoff to the old 40-mile town site, but we continue on for another kilometer to the old bridge that crosses the 40 Mile River. This area had a long history of use by the local Project-Witchin First Nation people. The 40 Mile River was also the site of Yukon's first gold rush that started in about 1885. That gold rush was the impetus to establish Yukon's oldest and first European town, named 40 Mile. The area was also the location of Fort Constantine, which was the base of the local Royal Northwest Mounted Police during the 40 Mile Gold Rush days. The Clinton Creek Asbestos Mine is located just west of the junction between the Yukon River and the 40 Mile River. The road to the old mine site is rough, but was certainly usable in 2019. Asbestos was mined at the Clinton Creek Mine by Cassiar Asbestos Corporation from 1967 until 1978. About 1 million tons of asbestos fiber was extracted from the mine. At the time the mine was active, 500 people lived in the town site at Clinton Creek. Now I want to issue a caution. I will show some photos of the mine site as seen today. These images may be disturbing to some because of the disruption needed to get access to the mineral asbestos by the mining operation. But it was the legal standard of the time when the mine operated. At that time, there was no law requiring the company to set money aside to clean up disrupted areas when the mine finally closed. This was typical across Canada. That is not true today. Across Canada, many if not all jurisdictions have laws in place that require a company to set money aside to reclaim the mining land at the end of the mine life. The geology of the Clinton Creek mine area is complex, and I have not found a modern and simple synthesis of that geological history. So for this video, I will just focus on the rock that contains the asbestos mineral. Understanding the rock that contains the asbestos mineral is important, because that rock has special characteristics that influence how well the vegetation grows on the rock. The mineral that was mined is called asbestos. The asbestos mineral looks like white-colored fibers contained in a green-colored rock. Let's follow the journey of that green-colored rock from deep in the earth to the earth's surface and how it came to contain asbestos. The rock that now contains asbestos began its journey as a dark-colored rock that has a knobby texture. That knobby texture comes from the presence of the mineral olivine. Because olivine formed deep in the earth, olivine is not happy on the earth's surface. The fact that olivine is not happy on the earth's surface is one of the important parts of the asbestos story. The deep earth mineral olivine reacts with hot mineralized waters close to the earth's surface, especially in areas where faults are active. Those reactions change the original dark-colored olivine rock into secondary green minerals, including serpentine and asbestos. The serpentine has what geologists describe as a greasy, light green color. Within the serpentine rock, the asbestos fiber fills fractures created when the rock was broken up on its journey from deep in the earth to the earth's surface. We can summarize this journey of the olivine rock from deep in the earth to the near surface of the earth, where the rock was transformed to serpentine and asbestos fiber. Step 1. Olivine-rich dunite rock formed deep in the earth. Step 2. The deep earth, olivine-rich dunite rock was transformed to serpentine rock by reaction with hot waters as it was shoved upwards by great geological forces along big faults. In step 3, the serpentine rock was broken up, the fractures were flooded by hot waters, and the asbestos fibers formed. So, the second important factor in the history of the rock was the transformation of the deep earth, olivine-rich dunite rock to an asbestos-bearing serpentine rock near the earth's surface. Now you might be thinking, I thought this video was about the influence of geology on plants. When do we get to that part? Well, the first influence of rock geology on plants comes from the chemistry of the rock. Deep in the earth, when the mineral olivine formed, high concentrations of the metal elements nickel, copper, and iron were pushed into the olivine mineral structures. Because the olivine was happy, or stable, deep in the earth, those metal elements were tightly fixed inside the crystal structures of the olivine minerals. When the olivine-rich dunite rock was moved by great geological forces towards the surface of the earth, the olivine reacted with hot waters to form serpentine and asbestos, and the metal elements were released from the olivine crystal structures. In high concentrations, the elements of nickel, copper, and iron are poisonous to most plants. Plants growing in a deep blanket of soil that came from elsewhere are protected from these noxious elements, but plants growing in shallow soil derived from the serpentine rock are exposed to the released noxious elements. Only specialized plants that are adapted to protect themselves from the noxious elements nickel, copper, and iron are able to grow on these metal-rich soils derived from the serpentine rock. So, growing on soils derived from serpentine rock, we expect to see perhaps few plants, or maybe stunted plants, or maybe only specialized plants. And that is what we are here to look for. One of the best illustrations of the influence of serpentine rock discouraging plant growth is seen at Gros Morne National Park, on the western part of the island of Newfoundland in Canada. As your eye scans over the orange-colored serpentine rock, you can see that virtually no plants grow in this noxious dunite serpentine substrate. But there are a few specialized plants that do grow on the dunite serpentine rock. One is called alpine catchfly, Biscaria alpina. This lovely plant is adapted to grow on soils and substrates that are rich in the element copper. Another specially adapted plant that grows on the dunite serpentine rock of Gros Morne National Park is called serpentine sandwort or serpentine stitchwort, Minuardia marcescens. This specialized plant is adapted to grow in soils and substrates that are rich in the metal element nickel. By the way, in case you're worried, these rocks are safe to touch with your hands. They are just noxious to most plants. So, the third factor in the history of the deep earth olivine-rich dunite rock that influence where plant growth takes place is the release of the elements nickel, copper, and iron when the original olivine mineral was changed into serpentine. Those elements are poisonous to many plants.